Part 76. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Bulletin Chigwa. Chapter 756. The next day. Xianzheng Hall. At the meeting. Princess Milan arrived here early. As the eldest daughter of the emperor, her status in the court meeting was not that of an imperial daughter, but a minister of the Ministry of Personnel, a third-rank minister, and she was naturally qualified to enter the Xianzheng Palace. Certainly. Anyone with a discerning eye knows what the eldest daughter of the emperor is planning. The so-called Minister of Civil Affairs was just a way for her to avoid being squeezed out of the political center of Qing dynasty. If a crown prince did not have the ability to enter the Xianzheng Palace to participate in government affairs, then who could bet on her? Not long after. On the dragon chair in the Xianzheng Hall, a slender figure suddenly appeared. It was a man, dressed in a luxurious beige dragon robe, with a beaded crown on his head that covered his entire face. Through the cover, you could faintly see that the man looked about 50 years old, with white hair, scarlet eyes, tall and majestic, with a cold expression on his face that others cannot see. This person is Emperor Qing, the only world-destroying ghost and god in the Qing kingdom. The power of one ghost is enough to destroy half of the terrifying existence of Qing. It was precisely because of this terrifying level of terror that no one dared to openly challenge Emperor Qing's authority, even though he often failed to go to court, causing chaos in court meetings and everyone in the court having their own evil intentions. However, what makes people look at each other is that as the emperor of a country, Emperor Qing still held a string of Buddhist beads in his hand when he went to court. Every time he rubbed it, the luster on the beads flashed. Emperor Qing's face also lingered in the coldness and ferociousness. Princess Milan watched all this. Beautiful eyes flashed. On the surface, apart from his fondness for Buddhism, there was nothing unusual about my father. If she hadn't found the evidence, she probably wouldn't have believed that the emperor sitting on the throne in front of her actually planned to destroy his country in his heart. He also joined forces with other princes to rebel. To be honest, she still doesn't understand it until now. She can understand both Prince Li's rebellion and King Pingnan's rebellion. After all, who wouldn't want to ascend the throne? But she didn't understand the meaning of her father's rebellion, and he was able to bring other princes of the royal family together to plan the matter. I'm afraid not many people would dare to believe it if she told him. Thinking. Emperor Qing opened his mouth and said, "If there is any problem, I will report it. If there is no problem, I will withdraw from the court." The words fell. The Minister of Household Affairs did his part and walked out. "Your Majesty, I want to play." Say Emperor Qing didn't even raise his eyes, staring at the Buddhist beads in his hand. There was no trace of interest in his tone, as if nothing that happened in Qing kingdom could make waves in his heart. "I want to consult the prince. As the crown prince of the Qing kingdom, he is narrow-minded and has evil intentions. He united with me to murder the queen and tried to blame the emperor's eldest daughter." The Minister of Household Affairs took out a booklet from his body. "Hold it with both hands." He raised his voice and said, "Here, it is about all the illegal things that the prince has done after he succeeded to the throne. I propose that the prince be deposed." As soon as these words came out, the scene fell into dead silence. Emperor Qing? Princess? Manchu civil and military officials? At this moment, everyone was confused. I was shocked by this sudden news. "No. Isn't the former queen's father the one you're riding on, and isn't the prince your nephew? Do you want to report the prince and depose him? Are you crazy or are we crazy?" All civil and military officials in the court stared wide-eyed. The poisoning of the queen caused a huge commotion at the time. As the murderer, the eldest princess was imprisoned at the height of her fame and remained unknown for several years. Now tell them that the murderer is not the eldest princess, but the prince. Is the prince killing the eldest princess? And we planned this together with you, the Minister of Household Affairs. To be honest, everyone was dumbfounded. I can't understand this operation of the Minister of Revenue at all. This not only gave away the prince, but also condemned him to death for treason against the queen. What a special way to die together. The other side. Princess Milan was also shocked by this sudden change. She resented her own grandfather. Obviously she was also the child of her mother's concubine and the granddaughter of the other party. But when she made it clear that she wanted to participate in the battle for the successor and became more and more prominent, her grandfather and the prince sniped at her. It hit her hard at one point. This is not something a pro-grandfather can do. Because of this, among her imaginary enemies, Shang Shitob must be defeated. If he does not defeat him, the prince will always have a strong backing. Even if he is left out, he will still have a chance to make a comeback. But now, what is the other person doing? Self-destruct? Xianzheng Hall is not a place for casual joking. As soon as this matter is revealed, no matter whether the Minister of the Ministry of Revenue regrets it or not, the matter must be investigated to the end. And the other party seem to have produced evidence. There are witnesses and physical evidence. If this is true, the prince will be finished, and the Minister of the Ministry of Revenue will also be finished. If you think about making a comeback, there is no hope at all. Think of this. Princess Milan's heart was beating fast. First timing. She thought of Shen Jian. Before she left last night, Shen Jian did tell her that he would extract the memory of the Minister of the Ministry of Finance and present the evidence that he poisoned the Queen. But she didn't expect that Shen Jian would do it so thoroughly. A memory cannot have the same meaning as a personal report from the Minister of the Ministry of Finance. The former requires wrangling and pressure, and it will take a long time of repeated pulling before the prince can be finally convicted, and it will take even longer to depose the prince. But if the Minister of Revenue personally reports it and hands over the physical evidence, then only a final trial is required. How did he convince Shangshu of the Ministry of Finance to make such a decision? The eldest princess became more and more curious. She desperately wants to know all this and wants to run out of the palace right now and let the man tell her what happened last night. Just thinking about it? Emperor Qing on the dragon throne was also alarmed. He stood up. The tall and majestic figure suddenly burst out with a terrifying and unusual supernatural threat. That is the horror of world-destroying ghosts and gods. Just a moment. Everyone in the entire hall felt a great pressure, with cold sweat dripping from their faces, and they lowered their heads for fear of being affected. At the same time, he also scolded Shangshu of the Ministry of Finance in his heart. Damn it! It's such a big deal, but you, a thick-browed guy, didn't tell us in advance, and you just shook it out. This is a quick move, and you want to kill the prince. You know, you are also the humming mastermind here. If something happens to the prince, how can you, a Minister of Household Affairs, fare better? What kind of hatred or resentment? Even if the prince hums your wife, there is no need to do this. Send it up. Emperor Qing said coldly, his tone was terrifyingly calm. The eunuch on the side carefully handed over the booklet. Emperor Qing turned over it several times. He threw the booklet to the ground. Come here, take the Minister of Household Affairs under custody, remove him from his official position, and put him in prison to await his fate. There is also the prince. Go to the East Palace to arrest him and put him in prison together. As soon as the sentence came out, the whole place was in an uproar again. Because the signal this gives is already obvious. The book submitted by the Minister of Household Affairs must have recorded all the misdeeds of the prince, especially the poisoning of the queen, which is a definite fact. Otherwise, the prince would not even be given a chance to explain. The prince's situation is over. This idea appeared in the minds of the civil and military officials of the Manchu dynasty. With the collapse of the Secretary of the Ministry of Finance, the prince had already lost his biggest supporter, and now he was charged with murdering the queen. How could such a tainted prince sit on the throne again? Think of this. All the ministers had different thoughts. He began to think about who else had the best chance of taking the position of crown prince after the crown prince's downfall. The third prince. The jail is closed. 13th prince. A little brat with an immature mind. They screened them one by one. It was only at the end of the selection that I realized that this was an egg. In today's court, with the third prince and the prince being imprisoned one after another, the eldest princess has become a standout, and no one can stop her. Even if they supported other princes, they would still be in a difficult position, let alone compete with the full-fledged eldest princess. In other words, the eldest princess has already determined the final winner in this battle for the right to inherit the throne. As soon as this idea came up, everyone was shocked. Because they discovered something else. The third prince fell, and the eldest princess became the final beneficiary. So, was the eldest princess behind these two events? Whether it was the third prince who was revealed to be plotting rebellion, or today's Minister of Revenue who blew himself up, the process was full of doubts, and I always felt like there was a big hand behind everything, controlling everything. In this case, the eldest princess is too suspicious. On the field, the ministers looked at the eldest princess with hidden eyes. It seems that he wants to see some clues from the other person's face. But it's a pity. The eldest princess's palace is also very deep. There was no other emotion on his face except shock. It looked like he had no idea. Soon, the meeting came to an end. The ministers were divided into teams, discussing something intensely. The eldest princess, who is also in the center of the whirlpool, has hidden her traces and arrived at the Jinho mansion. Not here. After hearing what the servant said, Princess Milan frowned. He didn't come back last night. Back to your highness, Master Shen is back, but he left early this morning and has not come back yet. Do you know where he went? Most likely, he went to Prince Jin's mansion. Master Shen did not deliberately hide his whereabouts. Hear this answer. Princess Milan's heart skipped a beat. It's not that she didn't know the contents of Shen Jian's deal with the queen. But what the deal said was that Shen Jian was guiding the 13th prince to give him the ability to protect himself. But this morning, the 13th prince also attended the court meeting. He was not even there, so why should he go to the Jin palace for guidance? Has a problem. The eldest princess left in a hurry. Go straight to Prince Jin's mansion. Jin palace. After the court meeting, the 13th prince also hurried back to the palace, preparing to report to his mother what happened this morning. His father's neglect of government affairs and the harem had many disadvantages, but for him, there were only advantages. After all, if the father and the emperor were not alienated from all this, how could the mother, as the queen of a country, leave the palace every day and even live in the Jin palace? Queen mother, queen mother. The 13th prince shouted. But there was never any trace of the queen mother. Until he came to the small bamboo pavilion where his mother loved to stay. Finally met the queen mother. Besides, teacher. The 13th prince was stunned. In addition to his mother, he also met his teacher at Xiaozu pavilion. The queen mother was wearing a tight-fitting human yoga suit, burying her head in her arms, and stretching her arms forward as hard as she could. The teacher was behind the queen mother, leaning forward, and their bodies were touching each other. The posture looks very ambiguous. The queen mother is asking the teacher to teach her yoga again. Is this yoga so effective? Otherwise, why would the queen ask the teacher to help her every day? The 13th prince thought as he watched from a distance. End of chapter. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 757. Earlier. Jin Palace. Shen Jian was invited to come here and met the queen, who was sitting in the small bamboo pavilion. A dark wind blows. The fragrance of bamboo mixed with a bit of fragrance comes to your nostrils. In the bamboo pavilion, the queen is radiant, and her whole body exudes a mature aura. A little application of pink and white can make the flowers bow down. Even the blood flowing on her fair wrists, in Shen Jian's opinion, it does not destroy the beauty, but adds a different sense. Make her look more special. Your Majesty, it seems that the 13th prince is not here. Shen Jian looked at it for a moment, with a different color flashing in his eyes. Today is the day when that person goes to court. All officials of the court need to go, including Zhi. The queen explained. Immediately he said solemnly, Mr. Shen, you help me find the maid and let me know the real culprit. I owe you a favor. In addition to the favor I got from the transaction with you, you have to let me help you. Is it something? Her voice was so soothing. A pair of seductive, foxy eyes that look very serious. She has not repaid the price of mentoring the 13th prince, and now Shen Jian is helping her find witnesses. With two favors weighing on her, she really wants to do something to help Shen Jian. Hear this. Shen Jian's eyes moved. Queen of Daking Zhan Tai Mirror. Current status, grateful, serious, anxious, moved. Favorability, 75, ambiguous. Shen Jian was stunned. The favorable opinion was just over 60 points before, but unexpectedly it soared to 75 points in just a few days. There is also anxiety and agitation in the status column. Shen Jian glanced at the queen without leaving any trace. This noble and beautiful woman was sitting on a stone chair with a dignified manner. But if you look carefully, you will find that her legs are close together and rubbing at a very small level. He seemed to know what was causing the anxiety. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. He thought that this queen was really a cold-blooded woman, so tolerant. It turned out that she had not reached her limit. Now, once the fire is ignited, it will be difficult to extinguish it in a short time. Think about it. Shen Jian opened his mouth and said, Empress, I really don't ask for anything from you, but if you want to return my favor, then let me practice yoga again. Only if you experience it well can I be sure that this yoga is real. Effective. Yoga. The queen hesitated for a moment. During the last yoga session, she discovered that the two of them had clearly crossed a line. Who is she? The queen of Daking, the mother of a country, the master of the harem with a mother-in-law, and the most noble woman in the Qing kingdom. Logically speaking, her ketone body can only be touched by the emperor alone. Even her son has to avoid suspicion in this regard. However, during these days of living in Prince Jin's mansion, she not only allowed Shen Jian, a wanted criminal from the Qing kingdom, to touch her jade neck and back, but a few days ago, when she was wearing yoga clothes, she seemed to feel that man's extraordinary power. Place. What made her even more ashamed was that she was actually emotional. Now, Shen Jian made this request again, and she was a little confused for a while. On the one hand, she is the queen of a country after all. It would be inappropriate for her to flirt with a man like this, and she would also be labeled as shameless. On the other hand, her body was craving this atmosphere. See this. Shen Jian said deliberately, forget it, my request is indeed abrupt. Madam, you don't have to worry about my feelings. It was me, Meng Lang, and I shouldn't bring up such embarrassing things for you. Hear this. The queen's inner tangle deepened. After hesitating for 2 seconds, he immediately said, Mr. Shen, it's my problem. In that case, let's do it. But this doesn't count as returning a favor. How can you return a favor and do things to others? Say it. She stood up. Put on the black yoga clothes from before. standing in front of Shenjian with a slightly red face. Sitting on the yoga mat alone, I started the last exercise. Straighten your legs, stretch your wrists forward, and try to touch your toes. My dear, don't worry, I'm here to help you relieve your pain. As Shenjian spoke, he had already grasped the queen's slender waist with both hands, slowly kneading the waist, and then pressed upward little by little until his fingers disappeared into the black top. Mr. Shen, you. The queen noticed the big hands on her body, raised her head, and looked back at Shenjian sideways. My dear, don't you feel heavy and sore? I'm just trying to help you lighten this burden. Shenjian's expression remained unchanged. Woo! The queen's face turned red, she buried her head in her arms and let out an unconscious murmur. Her reason told her to stop Shenjian from continuing. But her body's instinctive reaction left her indifferent, and she could only choose to bury her head and hide her ears. She soon found out. Shenjian's actions became more bold. No longer satisfied with pressing at the surrounding locations, but aimed at the center. Like a spinning top, it takes care of all directions, left, right, up, and down. Her eyes became even more confused. Although she really didn't know what human yoga classes were like, she knew that this was no longer within the scope of yoga classes. But Shenjian is exerting himself. The other side. The 13th prince finally found his mother and queen. Getting ready to go. But suddenly I heard a very rapid and rough breathing. And a feeble voice, no, no. The 13th prince trembled. The queen mother's voice was simply mind-numbing, like the voice a Golan woman would make when she was loose. He looked around. Because of the stone table in the Xiaozu pavilion, part of the mother and teacher were blocked, preventing him from seeing the complete picture. But he could see the mother's unobstructed lower legs, her two tender white feet stretched straight, and her soles and toes flexing. He was a little confused. The last time I practiced yoga, my mother's soles and toes were not curled. Is this a new exercise method? Anthracene. Another charming voice came. The 13th prince changed directions and saw more details. The queen mother still maintained her original posture, but the difference was that the teacher's hands seemed to be missing. Looking from a distance, a part of the queen mother's clothes was faintly protruding. The thigh part also seems to be bulging out. It was as if two hands were reaching up and down into the queen's clothes. The 13th prince shook his head. This is impossible. Wouldn't this become blasphemy against the queen mother? How could a teacher do such a thing? And the queen mother is not that kind of person, so how could she allow the teacher to put his hands into her clothes? This is what clothes should be designed by humans. While thinking, the 13th prince was waiting. The teacher once said that practicing yoga requires a quiet environment and cannot be disturbed. Even if something big happens, you cannot come out to interrupt it all. He remembered this. There was no running over to disturb like last time. Instead, he squatted not far away, watching the soles of the mother's feet and toes below her calves tremble a few times from time to time, curl up, and sometimes stretch them up, making them too straight. But he didn't know if it was an illusion, but he seemed to hear the sound of water faintly. It was like water in a quagmire being constantly beaten and splashed out. Waited for a while. The mother's side just ended the yoga exercise. The 13th prince ran over. Seeing the queen mother panting in small mouths, her forehead was covered with hot sweat, her face was pink, and her two charming eyes seemed to be filled with mist, and there was an indescribable charm. The slender jade neck was also dripping with heat and sweat, flowing down the river, into the delicate collarbone, and then sliding down a piece of crystal white. Further down, the mother's yoga pants seemed to be partially soaked with hot sweat. It seems that this yoga is not as simple as he imagined. Just an ordinary movement made the queen sweat so much. The 13th prince thought this way. I wonder if I should practice it myself, I always find it very effective. What's wrong? After waiting for a while, the queen blinked her beautiful eyes and asked softly. Mother, do you know what happened in the court this morning? Shang Shuyu revealed that he and the prince teamed up to frame you and Princess Milan, and they were both thrown into prison by the father and the emperor, which caused a huge sensation. The 13th prince recounted everything he saw this morning. The queen was shocked. Subconsciously he glanced at Shen Jian, who was wiping his hands with a tissue. His face turned red and he was ashamed. At the same time, he felt in his heart that this matter might have something to do with this man. It has been a long time since the prince poisoned her, and no one in the court took the initiative to mention it. Obviously, this matter has been over. However, just the day before yesterday, Shen Jian found witnesses who participated in the plan and learned that the Minister of Household Affairs was involved. 2 days later today, the Minister of Revenue exposed himself in the court. The method used was to injure the enemy 800 and damage oneself 10,000. If there was nothing fishy about it, she wouldn't believe it. But how did this man do it? The dignified Minister of Household Affairs, the Crown Prince's biggest supporter, and his grandfather, actually reported on his grandson and got himself involved. Even if you give them more benefits, you can't do all this. Thinking. The queen pushed herself up and stood up. He quickly took away the yoga mat. However, the 13th prince still found that the yoga mat seemed to be wet, as if water had been splashed on it. The queen mother is sweating a lot. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Bulletin Chi Gua. Chapter 758. Jin Palace. The Empress put away the yoga mat stained with her water magic, and then sat on the small bamboo pavilion, digesting the news brought by the 13th prince. She looked at Shen Jian from time to time. Her charming face was still faintly rosy, and her snow-white forehead was wet with sweat, giving it a tender feeling like a hibiscus. Certainly. At this time, she could no longer care about this. After digesting the information from this morning's meeting, she keenly discovered that the current situation has undergone earth-shaking changes. The prince fell, was charged with murdering the queen, and was imprisoned. The third prince was convicted of treason and was also sent to prison. As for the remaining princes who had seized the throne, they either lacked the power behind them or had fatal flaws. Among the remaining candidates, she, the son of the current empress, had the best chance of becoming the crown prince. This also meant that her son was pushed to the bright side. He became the target of other princes. This is not good news. If her son was over 18 years old today, she would have to use the strength of the Xantai family to help her son build momentum no matter what. Even if this was not in line with her original intention, it was the best solution. However, the 13th prince is only 10 years old. Not mentally mature. Even with the help of the Xantai family, it would be difficult to stand out in the battle for the right to be the heir. Instead, it will become the target of fire. In particular, there was a well-established force in the court at this time, the eldest princess. Asking herself, she did not think that her royal son would be the opponent of the eldest princess, so admitting defeat in advance was the best choice. But I am afraid that in order to eliminate potential threats, the eldest princess will eliminate them together with her son. This is the key of the problem. Mr. Shen, I hope you can help me take care of him in the next period of time. I plan to talk to Her Royal Highness the Princess. The Queen said worriedly. The royal family has no family ties. Before knowing the true attitude of the eldest princess, she did not dare to gamble on the word conscience. She is a perfect example. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows slightly. Understand the other party's concerns. Indeed, the eldest princess is a royal daughter after all. Even though she has now secured her victory in seizing the legitimate son, there are still many risks in a woman's succession, not to mention that among these princes who seize the legitimate son, there is also a legitimate son of the current queen. For most people, the choice at this moment is to clear out all targets that may block the road. It is only natural for the queen to have such worries. That's what I thought. A servant came to report, "Your Highness, the eldest princess wishes to see you." As soon as these words came out, the queen's expression immediately changed. Said CAO has arrived. At this juncture, the protagonist at the center of the whirlpool came to Prince Jin's mansion, which was not a good sign. "Go and invite Her Royal Highness the Princess to come over." Soon, Princess Milan came to Zuding. She looks cold and dignified, and her behavior is dignified and generous, but she also reveals a touch of majesty, making it difficult to approach her at first glance. Wearing a simple yet luxurious light cyan dress, not only did she not feel cheap, but it made her temperament even more extraordinary. "I've met the Queen." Princess Milan bowed slightly. Then his eyes fell on Shen Jianjin like a hawk, and he glanced at the Queen and Shen Jianjin suspiciously, as if he wanted to see something. "Your Highness came here today. Why can't you accomplish something important?" The Queen was also keenly aware of the eldest princess's gaze falling on Shen Jianjian. It seemed that the two of them knew each other. "I came here to congratulate the Queen for finally bringing the culprit to justice, and also for my innocence." "It's quite sincere." The two of them chatted wordlessly. One is thinking about the purpose of the eldest princess coming here. One is examining whether there is any problem between the Queen and Shen Jian. But on the surface, both of them look harmonious. Chatted for a while. Princess Milan left with an excuse, but before leaving, she said, "Empress, I wonder if I can lend you this teacher you invited? I also want to know what ability he has that can become a 10-year-old teacher, the third prince's teacher." "No." Subconsciously, the Queen retorted. Then he felt that he was making a fuss out of a molehill and explained, "I mean, I have to ask Mr. Shen for his opinion." Princess Milan narrowed her beautiful eyes and said, "I think he won't refuse." "Say it." She stared straight at Shen Jian. There was 3 parts sharpness, 3 parts resentment and 4 parts suspicion in his eyes. "Shen Jian. Mother, I will take my leave now." Shen Jian said goodbye to the Queen and left with the eldest princess. Staring at the backs of the two of them, the Queen opened her lips and tongue, as if she wanted to say something, but after thinking about it, her eyes fell silent. What qualifications does she have to let Shen Jian stay? What happened today was considered a blasphemy to the royal family. Once discovered, she, the Queen, would be deposed and thrown into the cold palace. She really had no reason to let Shen Jian stay here. Everything that just happened could only be a dream. It's worth remembering for her. Return to Zhenhou Mansion. Princess Milan came up to Shen Jian and sniffed it carefully. "What are you doing? I want to know if you smell like other women." "Your Highness, you underestimate my character too much, don't you? I am the teacher of the 13th prince, how could I do something like that?" Shen Jian hugged the eldest princess, his expression unchanged. "Who knows, after all, you are a person with a criminal record, but even if you have evil intentions, the Queen is not that kind of person. Don't overturn the situation when the time comes. If the relationship with the Queen is ruined, women may be cautious. How to get revenge on you?" Not seeing any substantial evidence, the eldest princess also put away her suspicions. She was not reassured by Shen Jian, but by the Queen. The Queen is the mother of a country, and she should know what it means to hook up with an adulterer. This is a crime that the royal family cannot tolerate. Once the secret is revealed, not only will the Queen's position be unstable, but even the 13th prince will be affected. Kick out the candidate for the throne. In this case, even if Shen Jian had any evil intentions, the queen would clearly reject it. She believed in the queen's evil qualities. By the way, the abnormal situation of the Minister of Tob is probably your fault. How did you do it? The effect was so good that the prince didn't even have time to prepare for the defection of the person closest to him. The eldest princess asked curiously. Shen Jian didn't hide it either. Tell him everything that happened last night. After listening, the eldest princess took a breath of cold air. Directly modifying cognition can also be effective on ghosts and ghosts. This supernatural power is so terrifying. No wonder the Secretary of the Ministry of Finance is so desperate. I dare you to think that he is an undercover agent or sent by me to trip up the prince. You are too bad. She rolled her eyes at Shen Jian. He was used to Shen Jian's bad behavior. Shen Jian did not refute. Asked, what are you going to do next? No one in the court can compete with you now. Do you think Emperor Qing will let you take the position of prince? Even if my father doesn't want to, he can't ignore the civil and military voices of the Manchu dynasty. Otherwise, with his level of terror, even if he can't destroy Qingguo at once, he can still plunge Qingguo into war. But my father didn't do this, so it means that there is some kind of limitation on him that prevents him from adopting such a direct method. Princess Milan analyzed. I suspect that it is because of the national destiny of the Qing kingdom that my father cannot destroy it openly. The first thing he needs to do is to reduce his influence, let the national destiny of the Qing kingdom drop to the extreme, let the people's hearts lose, and then use the throne too much. Only after we are completely separated from Qingguo can we achieve the goal of destroying Qingguo. Letting me sit on the throne of the prince is definitely not in line with his ideas, but when the civil and military officials of the whole court support me, it is impossible for my father to throw the throne to others at will. Whoever he throws to, I will eliminate. Speaking of which, the eldest princess's face glowed with strong confidence. The majestic attitude in the words has begun to take shape. Make her look more noble. The light shines everywhere. Shen Jian looked at it and kissed him subconsciously. Woo! Being suddenly attacked, a look of panic flashed across the face of the eldest princess. Because they are not waiting in a private environment in the study room, but right at the door of Jinho Mansion. There is only a wall between us and the bustling outside world. There is, someone. The eldest princess's eyes were blurred and she said words of rejection, but she never pushed Shen Jian away. Perhaps in her opinion, even if she was discovered, it wouldn't be a big deal. After all, she has decided that Shen Jian is her future man. She is the future prince consort and her crown princess. The other side. Just when Shen Jian was dealing with the relationship between the queen and the eldest princess. Death row directions. After more than half a month, 13 players finally escaped from the dark and dirty death row. They did not listen to Royal Quan's words and choose the eldest princess or the 13th prince, but still chose the prince lineup. In their view, the key is to clear the dungeon as quickly as possible. The longer it takes, the greater the possibility of death. Because of this, choosing the prince is the optimal solution. They only need to let the prince eliminate the 13 princes in advance, so that they can change the direction of the future and win the battle for the heir. The sinister man with the ID of Sky Snake watched the progress of the side mission flashing on the panel, and he was already paying attention. The compensation reward for the sudden star upgrade of the dungeon, and the initial favorability at 30, can prevent them from being disrespectful after becoming the prince's secret guard. Next, they only need to show up in front of the prince a few more times, and sooner or later they will enter the prince's sight. By then, it was time for him to play up the 5,000 years of history of the Dragon Kingdom. He positions himself as a staff member. Make strategic plans at the rear and win the battle thousands of miles away. Just when he was thinking about his follow-up plan, there was a sudden commotion among the players. He frowned. Look in the direction the player points. Not far from the death row, a prison called prison suddenly came into view. In front of prison, a rather young-looking man, wearing fine cotton clothes, who looked like he was rich or noble at first glance, was arrested and imprisoned. What catches your eyes? Tianchi said calmly. The player with the ID Yongxin tremblingly pointed at the man who was either rich or noble, and said in horror, "That horse is the prince." Sky Snake? A group of players. Damn it! The prince was also arrested? This feels a bit familiar. It seems, it happened once not long ago. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Bulletin Chigua. Chapter 759. At this time, the players in the audience were in an uproar. The sound of "that horse is the prince" shocked them all, and a turmoil arose in their minds. The prince was also arrested? Etc. Why do they say also? Then I thought about it. The third prince was also arrested in this way. The two most promising princes in a row were arrested and imprisoned. What the hell is this? What is happening outside? This 6-star dungeon place is specifically designed to fight against their players. Whichever one you choose will go to jail. The eyesight prompted in the main quest of Dare to Love refers to judging which prince will be betrayed. Too old. What to do? Everyone was panicked. His eyes fell on the leader, the sinister man with the ID Sky Snake. This man's game level was the highest in the game except for 5-star players. Although he was not among the top 10 ghost masters in the supernatural circle, the opponent's remarks on death row can easily make players regard him as their backbone. Seeing so many looks, Tianchi was furious inside. He watched helplessly as the prince was arrested and imprisoned, but there was nothing he could do about it. On the one hand, he had been isolated from the outside world for so long that he had no idea what happened to this copy and why the prince was arrested. On the other hand, they are just a group of 4-star players. Their strength is at the level of Ghost Kings. Let alone saving them, whether they can get close is a question. In this situation, no matter how much he thought about it or made perfect plans, it was of no use. Leaving here, the side mission has not yet prompted us to fail, which means there is still a chance. We can only think about subsequent countermeasures if we figure out why the prince was arrested and imprisoned. The Yin-Ao man with the ID of Sky Snake immediately calmed down. He took one last look at the direction of the prison and left the place with a group of players. We can no longer stay on death row. If they stay any longer, if anything happens in the copy, they will all turn black. This is extremely detrimental. If you want to survive in the thriller game copy, or even gain benefits, perfect intelligence is the most important. Without this, players cannot move forward. Previously, he had considered that by joining the prince's lineup, he could catch up with the progress of other players, so he allowed other players to go out as pathfinders. However, now, the target they selected has been imprisoned. Let alone borrowing help, when will he be able to do it again? He didn't even know he was being thrown back to death row. If we don't take action, the mission will really fail. Time flies. The news that the prince and the Minister of Household Affairs poisoned the Empress of the dynasty also spread throughout the imperial capital within a few days. The news spread like wildfire. It has been widely spread. Everyone knew that the current crown prince was mean-spirited, sinister, and had evil intentions. He tried to rely on despicable means to eliminate the eldest daughter of the emperor. His conduct is disgraceful. Ghosts are also principled. Especially the world of ghosts and ghosts that has become its own country has naturally derived concepts such as values, worldview, and outlook on life. No ghost would hope that the future emperor of the Qing kingdom would be a sinister villain. It was also this day. News spread from the palace. Emperor Qing announced the abolition of the prince in front of the civil and military officials of the Manchu dynasty. The position of crown prince was thus vacant. The situation in the imperial court became increasingly unstable. Overt and covert fighting has come to light. The most eye-catching one is the emperor's eldest daughter. Without the constraints of the third prince and the prince, the eldest princess was able to flourish in the court, overwhelming the other princes. More and more court officials spontaneously supported this princess who entered the court forcefully as a woman. For a while, everyone knows that the overall situation has been decided. The final winner of the battle for the right to inherit the throne is about to be revealed. In a thatched house, players come together. The atmosphere was somewhat silent. Did we fail again? The person who said this was a player who had joined the third prince lineup. Believe it or not, we failed. Even the crown prince's position has been lost, so there is basically no chance of a comeback. Mom, why can't I understand this situation? Didn't the royal power say that the final winner of this copy will be the 13th prince? From what I have observed in the past few days, how can the 13th prince have any chance? Those who seize the throne the princes put together are not enough to beat the eldest daughter of the emperor. Many players were puzzled. Because the current situation is very clear. The eldest princess's power spread throughout the court, and her people were everywhere in the court. The other princes together had no hope. Under such circumstances, how did a child of the 13th prince become the crown prince? Isn't this a joke? The player with the ID of Sky Snake was silent for a while and said, Wang Quan has no reason to lie to us, because what he told us is that in the normal dungeon plot, the 13th prince is the final winner, but do you remember that he wants to the one we chose is actually the emperor's eldest daughter? Tian Hu spared his head, isn't this contradictory? There is no contradiction, Tian Shi said word by word, because the plot can be changed. Under normal circumstances, even if the third prince and the prince fail, they cannot be eliminated one after another in just half a month. There will be this situation just shows that there is an external factor involved. As soon as these words came out, all the players were shocked. A game ID came to mind, King of Yama. This 5-star player who had his own way from the beginning joined the lineup of the emperor's eldest daughter. You are saying that the reason why this Kingguo dungeon is like this is because of Yama logo. No way, this is a 6-star dungeon, how can he, a 5-star player, still stir up trouble? It's unbelievable. You said he can come up with ideas, but how can he eliminate 2 popular princes in such a short period of time? All players find it hard to believe. A human being helped the eldest daughter of the emperor eliminate the third prince and the prince in a battle for the right to inherit a 6-star dungeon? And let the 2 princes go to jail? This sounds so much like a fairy tale. It was too dreamy, too unreal. To this, Tianxi just said lightly, then tell me, what other reasons lead to so many accidents in the dungeon? Hear this. Everyone was silent. Apart from them being the 4th natural disaster in nature, there are really no factors that would cause this change. But, even if they believed this rhetoric, they could not accept the message for a while. Because this means that compared to Shen Jian, they are all useless. When Shen Jian joined the lineup of the emperor's daughter, they stayed on death row and ate the worst. When Shen Jian eliminated the third prince, they were still on death row eating the chaff. When Shen Jian eliminated the prince, they were still on death row eating the chaff. When Shen Jian assisted the emperor's eldest daughter to dominate the court step by step, they couldn't even eat the chaff. Who the hell can accept this kind of comparison? For a long time. One player finally said, then do we need to change the lineup now? Although it is something for nothing, as long as we change to the princess lineup, we can clear the dungeon in one sitting. The other players were deeply moved. Really? Now the eldest daughter of the emperor has the 6 gods in her hands. If nothing else happens, the position of crown prince will be hers. Now that they have changed their lineup, they can just lie down and watch the emperor's eldest daughter take the throne. My thought is, wait a little longer. Tianxi hesitated for a few words. The other players were stunned. Hold on? What are you waiting for? Waiting to see Yan Luo clear the dungeon alone and get the full reward? Seemingly knowing the doubts in the eyes of others, Tianxi broke it off and said, have you ever thought about how the 13th prince won the battle for the heir apparent in a normal plot? Everyone frowned. They really haven't thought about this problem. It's really weird to say this now. Whether it is the third prince, or the eldest daughter of the emperor, it is a mountain that is difficult to overcome for the 13th prince. Under normal circumstances, other princes will not give the 13th prince a chance to develop. Under such circumstances, the 13th prince was able to take the position of crown prince. Unless there are people openly supporting him. Moreover, that person's identity and status were so great that even the civil and military officials of the dynasty needed to fawn over him. Think of this. All the players' eyes widened. Emperor Qing. Yes, if the Qing emperor openly shows his love for the 13th prince and entrusts him with important responsibilities, most of the ministers who are not firm in their stance will immediately defect to the 13th prince lineup. If things go on like this, the 13th prince will have the qualifications to defeat the crown prince and others. You mean, no matter how well the emperor's daughter behaves now, if Emperor Qing doesn't like her, then everything will be empty talk. The player with the ID Yongxin took a breath of cold air. They really did not take the factor of Emperor Qing into consideration. After all, under normal circumstances, during the battle to seize the throne, the emperor would not openly show his favoritism for any prince, but if Emperor Qing really planned to do this, then the eldest daughter of the emperor might not necessarily be able to sit on the throne. The favor of a world-destroying ghost and god is enough to become a key factor in overturning the situation. Yes, so my idea is to wait. Hear this. Players have different ideas. I just feel like my brain cells are not enough. In a battle to win the rightful son, all aspects must be taken into consideration. And those who initially thought about changing the lineup and joining the eldest princess also hesitated at this time. At the moment, they only have one last chance left. Whether to choose the eldest princess or the 13th prince is a dilemma. They dare not gamble. Do you think Yan Luo knows this? Does he now think that by eliminating the third prince and the prince, the eldest daughter's position as heir apparent will be secure? He won't communicate with us no matter what. Indeed, compared to him, we are indeed useless, but often just a small error will cause the plan to completely collapse. He is too conceited. Should we tell him? Don't forget, our current lineups are still different. If Emperor Qing really favors the 13th prince, he, the eldest daughter of the emperor, will not be on the same team as us. At the same time, Zhenhou Mansion. Just when the players were at a loss what to do, the eldest princess brought new news. I asked the ministers from the 6 ministries to jointly submit a petition, saying that the position of crown prince cannot be vacant, and asked the ministers to recommend me. Do you know how my father responded? The eldest princess looked at Shen Jian with burning eyes. Shen Jian asked curiously, what did you say? He said that I lacked a merit of sufficient weight, a merit big enough to make people forget that I am a woman. And he has already found this credit, that is, leading the troops to exterminate the mysterious bandits who massacred hundreds of thousands of people in Chuanjiao City. As long as I get this merit, no one can stop me from becoming the crown prince. Hear the words. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. Emperor Qing is trying to kill someone with a borrowed knife? Borrowing King Pingnan's sword to kill his own daughter. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 760. Hear the news. Shen Jian frowned slightly. He knows better than anyone who is the culprit who massacred hundreds of thousands of people in Chuanjiao City. In his hands, there is evidence of the massacre of King Pingnan. It's just that I lacked the right time and didn't choose to make it public. Now, Emperor Qing personally asked the eldest princess to lead troops to annihilate King Pingnan, and then admitted that she had the qualifications to sit on the throne of the crown prince. In Shen Jian's view, this was just a plan to kill the eldest princess. Otherwise, why would such harsh conditions be given? Your Highness, you should also know who this mysterious soldier is. What do you think Emperor Qing means by making such a request? Shen Jian considered it. There is no need to turn around between us, Princess Milan said clearly. I know what you mean, and I also know what my father's plan is, but, as I said, my father has his own plan, and he also has his own plans. He wants to kill me because he thinks that if I take the throne, the Qing kingdom will not collapse so easily. But that is also true. If I can destroy King Pingnan, then he can only leave the crown prince position to me. As long as I don't let the situation in Qingguo collapse, no matter what my father wants to do, he can't get around me. Hear the words. Shen Jian said nothing. Because he wanted to go further. According to the eldest princess's method, after getting rid of King Pingnan, she can become the prince as she wished, and her main mission will also be settled. Under normal circumstances, this is naturally excellent. But his purpose has changed. Now that he has collected 8 dragon energies, he only needs the imperial jade seal in the hands of Emperor Qing to gain complete access to Zhoujui and Tiangong. Under such circumstances, he can only complete the main mission of the thriller game before returning. He definitely doesn't want to. Think of this. Shen Jian had new ideas in his heart. He felt that this might be an opportunity. Now he has evidence that King Pingnan massacred Xuanjiao city, but he lacks a suitable opportunity to expose it. Now, the time may be ripe. As long as he comes back with the head of King Pingnan to confront Emperor Qing, what Emperor Qing has done will be made public. No matter how loyal the civil and military officials of the Manchu dynasty are to Emperor Qing, facing an emperor who wants to destroy the Qing kingdom, everyone will. The positions are all consistent. In this case, even if Emperor Qing is killed, there will be no chaos in the court. By then, since he could obtain the last dragon spirit in the jade seal passed down from the country, the Qing kingdom would not have a major riot and fall into disputes, leaving the underworld struggling to clean up the mess. Thoughts are spinning. Shen Jian looked at the eldest princess, grinned and said, Your Highness, are you only satisfied with the position of prince? Even if your plan succeeds and you become the crown prince, after all, you are not the master of this huge ghost country, and all your actions will be ignored. Limited by Emperor Qing, how long can you defend yourself against a lunatic who wants to rebel against you? As soon as these words came out, Princess Milan's pupils shrank little by little. How smart she was, even if Shen Jian didn't say it explicitly, she could hear the underlying meaning of the sentence, Your Highness, let's rebel. If someone else said this to her, she would choose to tear that person's mouth apart. But if it was Shen Jian? A little silence. The eldest princess said in a hesitant tone, He is a legendary world-destroying ghost and god. It will be difficult for us to compete with him until we actually control more than half of the living forces of the Qing kingdom. This is her biggest concern. The legendary world-destroying ghosts and gods, the power of one ghost is enough to rival half of the Qing kingdom. If the other party was not restricted by many conditions and could not act openly, it would not be difficult to destroy the Qing kingdom. Without the ability to actually fight against world-destroying ghosts and gods, the so-called rebellion is just nonsense. I come. Shen Jian said softly. Just 2 words, but it shocked the eldest princess's heart. Until now, she didn't know what level Shen Jian's strength had reached, but now, she might have gotten a glimpse of this man's strength. At least it's the same level. Otherwise, how can we dare to say that we can compete with world-destroying ghosts and gods? Think about it this way. She became even more curious about Shen Jian's identity. Shen Jian is a human, She knows this, but according to her investigation, it is impossible for humans to have the strength to match the world-destroying ghosts and gods. Even the one with the highest level of terror in the death row can only briefly compete with the abyss-level Ghost King. Just strength. However, Shen Jian is more than one stage higher than other humans. This is obviously not something normal human players can achieve. The most reasonable explanation is that Shen Jian is not only a human being, he also has other identities, and he is a supernatural one. For a while, Princess Milan thought of many things. Then his eyes became firm. Okay, I believe in you. If you succeed, you will be Daking's national advisor. If you fail, we will be buried together. Her tone was very serious, and she had no regard for life or death. Since ancient times, rebellion has had only two outcomes. Either you will gain immense power, or you will have nothing. She really believed in Shen Jian, so she chose to rebel against this man without hesitation, without knowing clearly his strength. See this. Shen Jian smiled. He reached out and hugged the eldest princess's thin waist. Your Highness, there is no need to be so heroic. I have everything. To put it simply, it was a rebellion. Even though I knew that my father was a potential lunatic, I didn't dare to break up with him, for fear that he would go on a rampage and wreak havoc at all costs. Being held in Shen Jian's arms, Princess Milan did not resist, but pressed against the man's broad chest, feeling the strong and blazing yang energy, and her jade neck couldn't help but turn pink. It's just a world-destroying ghost and god. It's not a big trouble. It's you, Your Highness. You are the future queen of the Qing dynasty. How can you show such an unconfident little woman's attitude? Shen Jian said with a smile. The palms were placed in the correct position subconsciously, and the two big hands began to move. Dexing, what kind of queen, you can only bully me. The eldest princess blushed and buried her head in Shen Jian's chest, letting this man be frivolous to her. For a while, her body went limp. Hot air kept blowing on Shen Jian's chest. Then he took the initiative to send a sweet kiss. The mouth is like orchid. It's mind-blowing. Shen Jian felt itchy. I wish I could execute this future queen on the spot right now. But think about it. He still suppressed the urge. When the queen develops a big plan, she naturally wants to enjoy the fruits after developing it. Now that I have picked it off, there is something missing after all. But it has no impact on other aspects. Your Highness, I would like to learn from you your ability to speak out against other scholars. Time flies. Since that day, 3 days passed in a blink of an eye. This is the 4th week that players have entered the Qingguo dungeon. It's been almost a month. During this period, a group of players continued to use the ghosts they controlled to collect information from the 6-star dungeon. This is also the day news came from the palace. The eldest princess went on a personal expedition to avenge the hundreds of thousands of people who lost their lives in Chuanjiao City. It is said that the court has reached a consensus on this matter. If the eldest princess can solve this mysterious military problem, then she must be the heir apparent. Her Royal Highness, the eldest princess, may become the first female crown prince in the history of Qing dynasty and the future queen. As soon as the news came out, it caused a huge sensation. The incident in Chuanjiao City had only occurred less than half a year ago. During this period, the night-traveling god sent Master Shen from the 4th-level town to kill Prince Li and comfort the spirits of hundreds of thousands of dead souls in Chuanjiao City. But Prince Li was just the trigger, but the real culprits who massacred Chuanjiao City were still at large. They didn't even know who those culprits were. Now, when the eldest princess spread such big news, does it mean that the eldest princess has found the culprits and will bring back the heads of these murderers soon? On the streets, in the alleys, in the inns, and in the hook bars, ghosts big and small are discussing this matter. No matter who doesn't want to admit it, they have to say, Women are not inferior to men. Compared with the eldest princess, the other princes are really useless. The light of a grain of rice can compete with the bright moon. This is the most true portrayal of the hearts of the people of Qing dynasty. If the eldest princess could really do this and really think about the people of Qing, then it would not be unacceptable to him to have a female crown prince or even a queen. In a thatched house, the players gathered together. The uproar continued. Sky Snake, what do you think? This news doesn't seem to be false. If it is true, then the eldest daughter's position as crown prince is basically stable, and the copy has entered the final stage. A player asked. There was some anxiety in his tone. No one expected that the battle for a 6-star dungeon would enter the final stage in less than a month. This was beyond their expectations. Under normal circumstances, starting from the 3-star copy, the time is measured in months. If the overall quality and cooperation of the players are high enough, they can complete the level in 2 or 3 months. If everyone works independently, it may drag on for the first half of the year. This is the case for the 3-star copy, and the more difficult 4-star copy can be imagined. Being able to pass the customs in half a year is considered very smooth. As for 5-star or even 6-star dungeons, their minimum expectation is to clear the level within a year. However, less than a month has passed since the dungeon, and the emperor's eldest daughter has already become the only winner in the battle to win the throne. She is only one imperial conquest away from becoming the crown prince. More importantly, judging from the information they currently have, the reason why the eldest daughter of the emperor is so far ahead is because a player has joined the lineup of the eldest daughter of the emperor. That person is one of the only 5-star players in this dungeon, with the game ID King Yama. In the real world, he is a ghost controller codenamed Yamluo and is also a city leader. On the contrary, it is them. They had been on death row for just a week. The problem of subsistence on food and clothing has not yet been completely solved. And the other party has already brought the emperor's eldest daughter to the final victory. Damn it, you are so powerful, what do you want the other players to do? Being a cheerleader and calling you 666? It's too hurtful. This was the first time that a group of 4-star players felt deep frustration and disparity. Please, take away your magical powers. Give us a chance to seek our exhaust. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigua. Chapter 761. At this moment, the mentality of all the players was shattered. Seeing Shen Jian building a tall building on his own, while they were struggling to the point where they couldn't even afford food and clothing. Such a huge gap would make everyone feel frustrated. What's more, they are a group of 4-star players. Even though they live like beggars in the 6-star dungeon and are frightened every day, in the supernatural circle, they are fully senior players and are considered great by new players. In the real world, among a group of players who have controlled the puzzle of 3 ghosts, which one of them is not a high-ranking figure in a city? Anyone with hundreds of millions in assets is considered a poor person. The reason why life is worse than that of a beggar now, and a dozen players need to live in a thatched house, is because this place is a 6-star dungeon, a super large ghost country with world-destroying ghosts and gods. Under normal circumstances, they would be in such a state of desolation that they would be the status quo of the dungeon. As for Shen Jian, that's not a humming normal person. How can anyone quickly clear a 6-star dungeon in less than a month? You think you are traveling? Are you sure your clearance speed is just level 60? If you hadn't told us, we would have thought you were level 100. Wrong. Even level 100 can't be done so smoothly. This can only be achieved by hacking into the horror game and getting specific strategies. Horror game, Don't humming pretend to be dead. See if this hanging man is cheating. Can you be tougher and block his account? Otherwise we would have no gaming experience. On the field, the atmosphere was somewhat silent. Everyone is digesting this news. At this time, the sinister man with the ID of Sky Snake subconsciously said, "Don't be anxious, don't panic, let's wait." As soon as these words fell, the eyes of the players present fell on him. Each look is very different. It seems to be saying, in this situation, you are still trying to fool us. If we wait any longer, I'm afraid Shen Jian won't be able to speed pass alone, and he won't even be able to get the Kaoxiang by then. Sky Snake. His facial muscles also twitched slightly. His face, which had been expressionless due to the supernatural erosion by the evil ghost, could not help but reveal a hint of embarrassment under the gaze of everyone. He found that Shen Jian was simply his nemesis. Every time it breaks his follow-up plans. This was something that would never have happened in the past. This was not because of his pride, but because the ghost jigsaw he controlled gave him a thinking ability far beyond that of a normal person. If a normal person's thinking and reaction ability is 10, a genius is 50, and a ghost is 80, then he has at least 100 or more. The ability to think and react does not mean IQ, but it allows him to take one step and see 3 steps. When placed in a copy of a thriller game, this is undoubtedly a magical skill that makes him feel like a fish in water. Now he is only one level away from becoming a 5-star player. One can imagine how special the ghost he controls is. But in this 6-star copy, with Shen Jian's participation, all his thoughts were useless. While he was still in a wait-and-see state, Shen Jian was already several steps ahead of him. He had just started, but Shen Jian was already close to the finish line. The so-called resistance seemed to not exist at all in the opponent's eyes. Even if it was him, he couldn't help but think in his heart, this damn thing must be open. Thoughts are spinning. Tian Snake shook his head and said seriously, "Have you ever thought about the doubts in the massacre of Xuanjiao City? What's the suspicion? How did a main city with a population of at least several 100,000 people be massacred? How much terrifying strength does it take to do this without any news of the massacre? In other words, how many soldiers and horses are needed to blockade a city?" "City," the heavenly snake eloquently said. "As far as I know, this super-large supernatural place has only one ruler, King Guo. In this case, who do you think has the strength to massacre an entire city?" Hear this. The players collectively groaned. They were not fools. From Tianxi's words, it was obvious that the other party was suspecting that the mysterious soldiers who massacred the city were probably from within the Qing kingdom. And those who can possess this ability must be in a high position and have a large number of troops. Either a general or a frontier prince or something like that. What do you want to say? Some players frowned. I want to say that there are a lot of secrets involved here, and even if they are not small, it may lead to a war in which the feudal king rebels. Before the matter is settled, the crown prince's position will not be fixed so quickly, so we don't need to panic. Tianxi's thinking is clear and her speculations are well founded. It made many players nod their heads frequently. Being able to consider so much from just a few clues, and excluding the other party's experience of repeatedly hitting a wall, he is indeed a qualified leader. Then what if the eldest daughter of the emperor solves this problem quickly? Some players have come up with different ideas. This is impossible. Tianxi shook her head and said, "What the eldest daughter of the emperor needs to face is an army with heavy soldiers. If she has the background to crush this army, she will not be able to seize the throne at all. What is the fight about? Because of this, unless she clearly knows whose team this army belongs to, how many people there are, and where they are, under normal circumstances, Emperor Qing cannot let her take away hundreds of thousands of people casually. Army. So, it will take a lot of time. Although the battle for the inheritance has come to an end, it will probably take longer from the end to the end. Hear this. Players agree more. I agree with you, but I choose the Emperor's eldest daughter. A 4-star player nodded in approval, and then changed the lineup, from the prince to the eldest daughter of the Emperor. I also agree with your judgment, but I also choose the Emperor's eldest daughter. Me too. You all chose the Emperor's eldest daughter instead. Haha, there is no mutual agreement, I will choose the same one as you. Listening to Tianxi's words, all the players switched to the lineup of the Emperor's eldest daughter. There was not even a discussion. Just change it? I'm afraid that if I change a step too late, this option will be gone. Sky Snake. He couldn't hold himself any longer. The sinister eyes turned into speechless. Grass. I bet what I just said was in vain. Since you want to change the lineup of the Emperor's daughter, then nod. Seemingly seeing the resentment in Tianxi's eyes, the players explained, don't get me wrong, we really think your words are reasonable, and we also think that your guess has a high probability of coming true. But, you forgot one factor, and that is Yama. He can help the eldest daughter of the Emperor eliminate the third prince and the prince one after another. So it will be the same this time. Instead of waiting until the end like a gambler, we are more willing to leave midway and join in. The team with the greater winning percentage. Hear this. Tianxi was stunned. Then he fell into deep thought. Put your hopes in someone else? He rarely considered this option. Because this means that it is difficult for him to control his life and death. But, looking at Shen Jian's performance from entering the dungeon to now, he had to admit that if he followed the opponent, there was a high probability that he could be a worm and win. There's no shame in that. After all, it's human nature to hug someone's lap. Thinking. Tian Snake discovered that his partner Tian Hu was operating something on the game panel. What are you doing? I'm planning on hugging my thighs. Of course I need to become familiar with him first. Sky Snake? You big bastard, are you enlightened? No, rebelled. Your position is too unstable. Subconsciously, Tianxi looked at the game panel in front of her. Whether to change the lineup. It has been detected that the player has changed the lineup. The current lineup is, the eldest daughter of the Emperor. Subsequently, he said silently. Sky Snake at King of Yama, sir, please take me with you. At the same time, there was an undercurrent surging in the court. Princess Milan, who was in the center of the whirlpool, came to the study where she and Shen Jian were alone. The imperial edict has been issued. Shen Jian took the imperial edict and glanced at it. There was a glint in his eyes. This imperial edict recorded the orders of Emperor Qing in detail. It probably means, according to the intelligence received by the royal family, the mysterious soldiers who massacred Xuanjiao City have been dispatched again, aiming at Tianxi City, one of the 12 main cities of Qing dynasty. The eldest princess is required to immediately take the order and go out to fight. This entire army was wiped out. How many soldiers and horses did he give you? Shen Jian asked. 100,000. Princess Milan opened her lips lightly and explained, Tianxi City is a heavily guarded place. It has 60,000 ghost soldiers, plus the soldiers and horses supported by nearby towns, the total is 90,000, and I led 10,000. The ghost soldiers set out to support Tianxi City and destroy the opponent while not allowing Tianxi City to be destroyed. It seems that Emperor Qing has put in a lot of effort. Is he worried that your death will be too strange and your flaws will be exposed? That's why he gave you 100,000 troops? Shen Jian asked curiously. He originally thought that Emperor Qing might not even give him 30,000 to 50,000 troops, but he didn't expect that he would give him a full 100,000, which was somewhat beyond his expectation. It's indeed a bit strange. It's impossible for my father not to know that this army is King Pingnan. As far as I know, the army led by King Pingnan is the Suanjia army. It only has 30,000 soldiers and horses, but he gave me 10,000. No matter how elite the Suanjia army is, they will not be able to do well against an army of 100,000. Princess Milan looked solemn. The only possibility is that the 100,000 soldiers and horses my father gave me were fraudulent. Shen Jian nodded slightly. I also agree with this guess. When to set off? Tomorrow, because according to the contents of the secret report, the mysterious army has already set off and will arrive at Tianjia City soon. If we don't set off as soon as possible, I'm afraid we won't be able to catch up. Call me then. I want to see what Emperor Qing's face looks like when I step into the palace with Prince Pingnan's head. Shen Jian's eyes showed a bit of excitement. He couldn't wait to get the last piece of dragon energy and gather the complete authority of Zhoujuyan Tian Palace. By then, he will have 2 Lefengtians in his hands, and he only needs to recover the 3rd Lefengtian to unlock the Azura Path, one of the 6 paths of reincarnation. Having already attained the status of the King of Hell in the 10 palaces, he is looking forward to the legendary status of the Fengdu Emperor being rewarded after the 6 paths of reincarnation are unlocked. Hey, I hope everything is okay. Seeing the strange smile faintly appearing on Shen Jian's face, Princess Milan also raised her head. They were obviously rebelling. If one was wrong, they would both be buried. But she always felt that the excitement in Shen Jian's heart was far greater than the fear. There is a sense of déjà vu that is not too big a deal. But who told him that this was her future national master? She had no choice but to pamper him. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the King of Hell of the 10th Palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 762. The next day. The day after all players changed their lineup of the Emperor's Daughter. The Scarlet panel emerged. Trigger Side Mission. Side Mission, 8 Chi Tianchang City. Content, Tianxi City is one of the 12 main cities of Qing dynasty. It is heavily guarded and cannot be broken easily. However, the royal family received intelligence and the culprit who massacred Xuanjiao City has already targeted this area. The situation is precarious. Hold on Tianchang City is the top priority. Task tip, Go is also a way of survival. Note, once the Emperor's eldest daughter dies, the mission automatically fails. Note, during this mission stage, players cannot leave the army 10,000 miles away, otherwise the mission will be deemed to have failed. Look at the panel. All the players looked at each other in confusion. Although they knew that joining the eldest daughter's lineup would not be so easy, they did not expect that the day after joining, they would be faced with a large-scale city defense mission. The battlefield is no joke. Most of the time, the battlefield also represents a noun, meat grinder. Regardless of whether he is a ghost king or a top ghost king, as long as he goes to the battlefield, he may die. What's more, they are a group of 4-star players. Among them, except for a few ghost masters above level 50, most of the terrifying levels are below the ghost king. They are the type who can briefly fight against the top red ones, but will be killed by the ghost king in an instant. Put on the battlefield, it's really just cannon fodder. Of course, players above level 50 are not much better. At most, they have touched the threshold of the Ghost King, and they will not be instantly killed by the Ghost King. But when it comes to competing against the Ghost King, they are a little behind. Also belongs to the cannon fodder type. Fortunately, Thriller Game seems to know that this side mission is too demanding and has no chance of survival at all, so it gives a way to survive. As long as you are within 10,000 miles of the main army, the mission will not be considered a failure. In this case, there will be more actionable points. Moreover, the side mission is to defend the city. In other words, the distance of 10,000 miles is enough to cover part of the city. They only need to silently follow the team at the end and hide in the city. It should not be a problem to survive until the end. Just thinking about it? Another scarlet panel emerged. Activate side missions. Side mission, destroy the enemy. Content: the emperor of the current dynasty made a bet with the eldest daughter of the emperor. If he can wipe out all the enemy troops and defend the Tianxia city, he will be appointed as the crown prince based on his merit. The lineup of the eldest daughter of the emperor has been announced. Number of enemies. Mission target: red level, 0/30, Ghost King, 0/5. Task tip: Go must also have a bloody nature. Note: this side mission is part of the main mission. If you fail, you will automatically exit the lineup of the eldest daughter of the emperor. As the second side quest appears, the player's expressions changed upon hearing this. 30 red-clad fierce ghosts and 5 ghost kings. Is this the mission goal of each of them, not a team? Grass. What a joke. Are they being used as social animals who are not afraid of the resurgence of evil spirits? Most of them have probably never fought against 30 red-clad ghosts until today. As for the Ghost King, he pretends to be a grandson to the extreme, so how can he take the initiative to provoke them? However, a side mission requires them to kill 30 red-clothed and 5 Ghost Kings. Still in a situation like the battlefield. Is this because they didn't die quickly enough? I'm afraid that even if I play with myself until the evil ghost wakes up, I won't be able to complete this task. Think of this. All the players' faces turned pale. They had been staying on death row before. Even if they escaped from there, they would not have any mission burden. They would collect intelligence every day. Because of this, although they were afraid of the 6-star dungeon, they did not feel that the 6-star dungeon was dangerous. How big? But now, they got it. A side mission will drive them to death. At this time, a player above level 50 has lost his mentality. Emotionally broken, he said, 50 red-clad ghosts, 10 ghost kings, a thrilling game, I'll give it to you. Hear this. Players above level 40 were stunned for a moment, and then reacted. Damn it. This line task is actually about looking at the dishes. How do I feel that we have a sense of relief? Although I am panicking, high-level players seem to be more panicked, so do I still need to panic? After some communication, players discovered that the number of enemies killed in this line of tasks was not the same. For players above level 40, the mission target is 30 red-clothed and 5 ghost kings. For players above level 50, there are 50 red-clothed and 10 ghost kings. It can be said that no matter what level of player you are, thriller games are all about death. The main thing is to force someone to death. The tasks for 4-star players are so difficult, but what about 5-star players? In this dungeon, Yan Luo should also be playing a role like a strategist, but this side mission relies not on brains, but on practicality. With strength, we might be able to bring him together. Some players made suggestions. That makes sense. The other players' eyes lit up. Right now, they are already a team, and there is no competitive relationship. In addition, it is completely unfeasible for individuals to do this task alone. Cooperation is the only way out. The other side. Shen Jian also glanced at the scarlet panel. His eyes fell on the number of enemies killed. Mission target, Abyss level Ghost King, 0/50, Top Ghost King, 0/10. For normal 5-star players, this number of enemy troops is completely impossible. Not to mention 5-star players, even 6-star players would have no chance of completing it if they were not on the battlefield. The glimmer of hope given by a thriller game is truly a glimmer of hope. There is only one way to complete this task: pick the dead body. Just thinking about it? A message came from the chat interface. Sky Serpent at King Yama, Yama, you have also received the reminder of the side mission. I believe you can also see that this mission cannot be completed alone. We need to work together, of course. Command: the power is given to you and we obey. Sky Snake, to show our sincerity, we can help you complete the side mission first, and then solve our problem. Sky Snake, according to our side missions, the most difficult thing to solve in your mission, boss, is the Abyss-level Ghost King, but if we join forces together, we have a chance to suppress an Abyss-level Ghost King. See this. Shen Jian looked as usual. He didn't have any opinion about these players joining the eldest princess lineup. After all, he is basically immune to being hugged on the thigh. Previously, because he wants to fill the 18 levels of hell, what he likes most is for players to provoke evil spirits everywhere, and then he helps them solve them. But now, the 18 levels of hell have been unlocked, and the 6 paths of reincarnation have almost been unlocked. He is much less interested in helping players. Think about it. Shen Jian silently sent his mission target. King Yama, great, you are really my good partners. I need to kill 50 Abyss-level Ghost Kings and 10 top Ghost Kings. Boy, help boy, you help me and I will help you. A group of players. Looking at the frenzied enemy target in the chat interface, all the players' pupils shrank suddenly and their eyeballs almost popped out. Emma. 50 Abyss-level Ghost Kings and 10 top Ghost Kings. Let's make a fuss. Is this the task difficulty for a 5-star player? Isn't this pure and against heaven? Not to mention Shen Jian alone, even if half of the players in the Dragon Kingdom supernatural circle were brought in, they would not be able to deal with such a large scale of ghosts. Most of them have probably never seen the top Ghost King. It is possible that they will be crushed to death by the other party's supernatural force before they even get close to the other party, or even if they just speak, the ghostly sound that comes out can kill them. This cooperation is a ghost. The other players stared at each other. The Yin-Ao man with the ID of Sky Snake also fell silent. He said something silently. Sky Snake, sorry to bother you, we are not worthy. See this. Shen Jian withdrew his gaze. What's wrong? Look at you, are you so impatient? Aside. Inside a small palace drawn by 6 ghost horses. Seeing the faint curve at the corner of Shen Jian's mouth, Princess Milan asked curiously. From the very beginning, she could see that Shen Jian seemed to be looking at something, and she had a sense of déjà vu. Some trivia. Shen Jian waved his hand. Lean inside the splendid small palace. There was some emotion in his eyes. Her Royal Highness, the eldest princess, travels in a grand manner. According to her, this is her first personal expedition. The bigger the limelight, the better. The more grand, the more confident the people of Qing will have in her. After the enemy army is wiped out and the army returns to the court, the people's support will reach its peak. By then, even if Emperor Qing is unwilling, she must be allowed to sit on the throne of Crown Prince. Therefore, early in the morning, Princess Milan pulled him into her exclusive carriage. A splendid small palace is pulled by 6 Abyss-level ghost horses. The internal configuration is completely reduced to the layout of a palace and packed here. Its level of luxury is such that no ghost robber dares to intercept it when walking on the road. You can imagine how impressive it is. Your Highness, you openly pulled me into a carriage in the midst of an army of 10,000 people. At this time, I am afraid that the entire imperial city is inquiring about this matter, and the news has already spread all over the sky. Are you afraid? The eldest princess said slyly. What am I afraid of? It's just that this is not a good thing for His Highness's reputation. What will happen if a man and a woman alone ride in the same carriage on a long journey? Shen Jian raised his eyebrows and smiled. If you're not afraid, then what should I be afraid of? If you marry me, all rumors will be disproven. Princess Milan said equally seriously. Shen Jian was startled. A strange color flashed in his eyes. This was the first time he met someone who told her so frankly that he wanted to marry her. In his impression, it was difficult for a woman as unique, beautiful, cold, and noble as the eldest princess to hear such a bold declaration directly from the other party. Yes, but only after your highness ascends the throne. Hear this. The eldest princess's lips also curved slightly. She looked at the man in front of her, her cold eyes full of indescribable emotions. An existence that can cause her inner emotions to fluctuate and make her forget about food and drink. This is a flaw that should not exist in the prince or even the emperor, but she is willing to do so. Then you can't just disappear for a few months like last time. I promise that when His Highness ascends the throne, I will hand over the authority of Jojuyintian Palace to you. You can step out of Qing Kingdom and enter the human world at any time. Shen Jian promised one after another. The ambiguous atmosphere is head-turning. Just when the eldest princess felt that not long had passed, a voice broke the atmosphere in the carriage. Your Highness, Tianxia city has arrived. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Bulletin Chi Gua. Chapter 763. Death City. One of the 12 main cities of the Qing Kingdom, it is as famous as the Jade City. However, the difference is that Tianxi City is a city near the edge of the Qing Kingdom. It is a frontier city. The city is heavily guarded and there is also an infinitely close statue inside. World-destroying level ghosts and gods sit here. When Shen Jian got off the carriage and looked at this majestic city from a distance, what he felt was an extreme depression. Not long after, Princess Milan returned from the city. A cold and majestic face was full of solemnity. There is something wrong with this city. I have just been received into the city lord's mansion. However, I discovered that the city lord has disappeared a few months ago. Now the city is leaderless, and it seems that there is no news that the enemy is going to massacre here. Thankfully, the 60,000 ghost soldiers stationed in the city are safe. With my identity, I can call them. The 30,000 ghost soldiers who came from nearby cities to support will also arrive within 3 days, plus the ones in my hands. 10,000 elites and 100,000 soldiers and horses are complete. Father, do you think that without the Lord of Tianxia City as a general, I can't withstand King Pingnan's 30,000 Suanjia army? The eldest princess's tone was uncertain. Because currently, the conditions on their side are really good for this. In addition to the lack of beings above the level of ghosts and gods, she has 3 times as many ghost soldiers as King Pingnan. Even if she uses twice as many troops to kill the Suanjia army, the remaining ghost soldiers can still block King Pingnan and his men. Of ghosts and gods. In this case, how on earth should her father kill her? Or, this speculation is false. His father gave this edict simply to pave the way for her? Think of this. Princess Milan suppressed this unreliable suspicion. It is true that King Pingnan massacred the city, and it is also true that his father protected him. All current clues point to his father's intention to destroy the Qing kingdom. If she continues to have such naive thoughts, she will only die without knowing it. What did you find? She looked at Shen Jian and asked. I found something, but I don't know if it's my imagination. I'll take a look again. Shen Jian looked at the city and the bustling pedestrians inside. His perception told him that the resentment in Tianxi City was more serious than that in Xuanjiao City. Xuanjiao City was the result of the resentment caused by the death of hundreds of thousands of fierce ghosts at one time. What was the reason for the death of the city that day? Shen Jian's eyes narrowed. I had some guesses in my mind. Okay, let's go to the city first. Although we don't know when King Pingnan's Suanjia army will come, but with the 10,000 ghost soldiers I have brought, there is still no problem in being on guard. I want to see what my father is doing. How is a dead end arranged? After Princess Milan said this, she turned around and entered the city. And the 10,000 ghost soldiers she brought took over the entire defense of Tianchang City. Her task is heavy. Not only did she have to integrate the 60,000 ghost soldiers of Tianxia City in a short period of time, she also had to deal with the 30,000 soldiers and horses supported by nearby cities. After doing all this, She also had to find ways to destroy King Pingnan's army. Only in this way can her achievements be enough to convince the public. To this, Shen Jian didn't say much. Didn't offer to help. He also understood the character of the eldest princess. The other party needed emotional value, but he could not treat her as an ordinary little woman. She was the eldest daughter of the emperor, and she dared to participate in the battle for the title of crown prince as a woman. In her professional field, she is confident that she can do her best. Not to mention, he also had to verify his guess. Shen Jian glanced at Tianxia city again and followed the eldest princess in. At night. City Lord's mansion. Princess Milan took over the place and began to study the city's defense layout. In the empty room, there was only the sound of her dealing with matters. "Are you still there?" Sudden. She shouted, her voice cold and uncertain. "I am here." Shen Jian sat on the roof of the city lord's mansion, looking at the city from a distance, and said warmly. "Didn't you say you found something this morning? Did you find it?" "Probably, found it." Shen Jian looked gloomy. "Look away." Tianxia city, which seemed very normal in the morning, turned into a different scene after nightfall. There seems to be no night market here. As soon as it reaches 12 o'clock in the middle of the night, the huge city seems to have been pressed on the pause button, and the doors of every house are closed. Viewed from Shen Jian's position, the whole city was plunged into darkness. Only the city lord's mansion still exudes the last trace of light. And in the darkness, a large thick grey fog was billowing, like a grey ocean, covering half of the city. The grey fog was strange, ominous, and covered extremely quickly. As if there was life, it covered all the buildings, turning this place into a dead place. Think about it. The heavy body shape disappeared in place. Those who discovered this were also the players who came with the large army. After entering Tianchang city, a group of players began to explore the layout of the city and study escape routes. Although the side mission requires them to kill evil spirits, everything needs to be based on survival. Following a large army is undoubtedly the fastest way to die. Therefore, the moment they entered the city, they had secretly separated from the large army and came to live in a ghost inn. However, at this moment, all the players had cold hands and feet. They discovered that after midnight, all the pedestrians in the ghost inn, including the owner, became motionless, like stone sculptures, with no supernatural fluctuations at all. Not only the ghost inn, they tried to leave the inn and enter the Gulan land on the opposite side, but they still saw the same scene. As far as the eye could see, not a single ghost was active. 12 o'clock in the middle of the night seems to be a time point. At this point, the ghost starts to stand by automatically. This scene. It makes all players shudder. Because this is obviously not normal. Oh my god, this is too intrusive. What is going on in Tianchang city? One player complained. They had just searched all the nearby places, and the situation in every house was the same. No matter what they were doing at the time, they would remain motionless as if they were timed. This is so wrong. Although this is a horror game copy, which is abnormal for humans, but looking at their experience of participating in so many game copies, the scene before them is still beyond their imagination. Let their inner fear threshold soar. The sturdy man with the ID of Tianhu shook his head and said, I just seem to see that the ghosts here became like this after the strange grey mist appeared. As soon as these words came out, other players also echoed. Indeed, I just saw that grey mist that seemed to rise at 12 o'clock in the middle of the night. At that time, I was just under the grey mist. I thought I had triggered some unknown supernatural attack, but nothing happened. Occur. Is this what's special about this supernatural place called Tianchang City? After 12 midnight, humans and ghosts are forbidden to roam. How is it possible? If this is the case, then when we see these ghosts, their movements will not be so strange. Some are even cooking. Do you think this is like knowing in advance that the rhythm will stop after 12 midnight? All the players spoke to each other. There was heated discussion. At this time, the sinister man with the ID of Sky Snake said with a pale face, "Guys, we are probably already late." Hear this. The other players were stunned. I don't know what the other person is talking about. What's too late? What kind of power do you think can bring all the ghosts in the city to a standstill? Sky Snake asked rhetorically. No power can do it. Even ghosts and gods cannot have the power to stop a city. The players shook their heads, the confusion in their eyes deepening. Yes, just because it's impossible, why do you think this happens? The more they listened, the deeper the players frowned. He was dissatisfied with the Riddler's tone of voice. You are so cute, just say no if you have anything to say, and be the Riddler of Nima. Seeing that the other players were puzzled, the horror in Tianxi's heart had reached its peak, and he shouted, "It's a ghost slave. Ghosts and gods cannot stop the ghosts in a city, but what if the city is a ghost realm and all the ghosts in it are ghost slaves? Do you think ghosts and gods can do this?" This sentence, like a thunder, it hit everyone's mind. Their pupils dilated little by little. He was shocked by Tianxi's shocking words. Are the ghosts in Tianchang City all ghost slaves? What a joke. There are as many as 300,000 ghosts in Tianxi City, and they also talked with the owner of the ghost in this morning. How do those ghosts look like ghost slaves who are not even sane? But if it weren't for ghost slaves, why would all the ghosts in the city come to a standstill? Wait, you are saying that all the ghosts in Tianxi City have been slaughtered long ago, and the reason why they are still alive now is because they have become ghost slaves and live in a man-made ghost realm? Some players were tremblingly sorting out their thoughts. The more rational it becomes, the more terrifying it becomes. Before they aided Qi Tianchang City, this city was already a dead city. So what's going on with the so-called aiding the horse and riding the horse again? They have not forgotten that the emperor's eldest daughter came here to defend the city and suppress the enemy, relying on the 60,000 ghost soldiers of Tianxi City. Now tell them that this place has been slaughtered long ago, and the so-called 60,000 ghost soldiers are gone. So what does the eldest daughter of the emperor rely on to resist the enemy? This is a trap. Inform Yama quickly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 764. At this moment, the players were in a state of extreme panic. Tianchang City has been completely slaughtered, and the so-called aid has become a joke. Can the 10,000 ghost soldiers brought by the emperor's eldest daughter and the reinforcements from nearby cities who don't know when they will arrive be able to withstand the mysterious army that massacres the city? Apparently, this is an impossible answer. Facing the culprit who massacred two main cities one after another, they had no choice but to find themselves in a terrible situation. It can be called an ambush from all sides. For the current plan, we can only hope that we and others will be lucky enough to abandon the large troops in advance and escape on their own before the enemy arrives. Sky Snake, no, I sent a private message, but Yama didn't reply. I don't know if I'm in any trouble. The burly man with the ID Tian who told him everything about the situation, but he got no response from Shen Jian. Let's go directly to the city lord's mansion. The emperor's eldest daughter is there, and Yama should be nearby. The Tianxi city is already a place of death. Even if you want to complete the mission, there is no such condition, but the emperor's eldest daughter can't have something happen to her, otherwise the mission of the 6-star dungeon failed, and we cannot afford the price. In the eyes of the heavenly snake, an evil ghost was wandering, and a large number of thoughts were constantly generated in his mind, making his eyes split open and his temples throbbing. This is the price of overusing the supernatural. Once he encounters something beyond his control, the greater the extent beyond his control, the more uncontrollable his thoughts will be, and various tragic endings will automatically appear in his mind. Until his brain is broken. Of course, the benefits are also very obvious. During this period, self-rescue methods for each route would automatically flash through his mind. Although it may not be right, as long as he thinks about it enough, he can find the most perfect solution. The words fell. All players rushed out. He ran towards the only building in the city that still emitted light. The other side. Shen Jian glanced at the content on the chat interface. Tianhu, boss, Tianshen said this is a trap. The entire Tianshu city is already a dead city. There are no living ghosts in it. They are all ghost slaves. Quickly inform the eldest daughter of the emperor to break out with 10,000 ghost soldiers. This city cannot be defended. Take a look. Shen Jian's expression was as usual, without the slightest hint of surprise. Long before he entered Tianshuang city, he had noticed the overwhelming resentment. This resentment was stronger than what he had absorbed in Xuanjiao city. There was only one reason for this situation: dead people. Coupled with this overwhelming resentment, it is not difficult to guess that Tianyuan city has encountered something unexpected. And the reason why he was unsure was because he didn't realize where the source of resentment was. But now, he got it. The resentment here has not taken shape, nor has it been artificially collected like Xuanjiao city, but the status quo is maintained. The purpose was to prevent the news of the massacre from leaking out. Perhaps it was specially prepared for Her Royal Highness the eldest princess. Otherwise, according to King Pingnan's method of refining the blood pill, the ghosts here would have no chance to become ghost slaves, but would directly become the materials for the blood sacrifice soul pill method. Using a main city layout and burying the eldest princess with the lives of 10,000 ghost soldiers was indeed a generous move by Emperor Qing, and he did think highly of his eldest daughter. There was some emotion in Shen Jian's eyes. It's really a loving father and a filial daughter. Just thinking about it. Shen Jian was sitting on the roof of the city lord's mansion, glancing casually. In a house less than 100 meters away, two sneaky figures were glaring with scarlet eyes, staring in the direction of the city lord's mansion. Seems to be monitoring this place. With all the ghosts in the city at a standstill, these two moving ghosts undoubtedly looked very suspicious. Shen Jian suspected that this should be the spy planted here by King Pingnan in advance. The purpose is to monitor the movements of the eldest princess. Think about it. The heavy body shape disappeared in place. A private house. Two ghost figures are secretly watching. Wearing black armor and an iron mask on his face that symbolizes the image of an evil spirit, his appearance is completely invisible. Apparently, they were members of the Suanjia army under King Pingnan. And they are not ordinary top soldiers. One is an intelligence agent, and the other is a Kinhu ghost who leads a 1,000-man army. The level of terror has reached infinitely close to the level of ghosts and gods. At this time, the two of them were supervising without a glance. He looked somewhat relaxed. Because they discovered that the eldest princess, who came to the city during the day, was so damn dedicated. From this morning to now, not to mention the city lord's mansion, even the door has not been opened, and the problem has been dealt with almost all night. They oversaw a loneliness. It's so boring. This eldest princess must be very uninteresting. Kaitoki spoke his first words since supervising. Oh, right, do you want something to eat? I have a lot of good stuff here. At this time, an inexplicable voice responded to him. Before Qian Huogui could react, he was supervising the city lord's mansion and said without looking back, "Can you still bring food?" "What's wrong with that?" "I have ghost brain soup, sauce-flavored ghost hands, braised ghost feet, stir-fried heart and liver, and boiled ghost whip." Which one do you want? Kinhyogui. Hear this. He froze. Are you sure you can bring these dish names? Isn't it freshly made? Just thinking about it? Suddenly he heard a slight whine. The pupils shrank sharply. There are just two of them here, how could there be a third party's voice? Think of this. Kinhyogui turned his head subconsciously. He saw a scene that made his scalp tingle. I saw the intelligence ghost supervising from the other direction. I don't know when, he had been hung up by a blood-stained ghost rope. His hands and feet were struggling wildly, but he still couldn't get rid of the restraint. All he could do was stare at his white eyes and let out a slight whine. And on the side, a man with black hair and black eyes was looking at him faintly. The hemp rope standing out of thin air on his wrist told him that this was the person who hung up the spy. At this time, the man in front of him showed a sinister smile. Friend, you haven't told me what you need. Otherwise, I can act on the spot and make you 4 dishes and 1 soup. In an instant, a creepy emotion quietly crawled into Kinhyogui's heart. It shocked him. Are you the eldest princess's concubine? He knows Shenjian. Before the eldest princess even stepped into Tianyun City, they had already learned the news in advance and saw this man getting off the eldest princess carriage with their own eyes. A man and a woman were alone, riding in the same carriage. Anyone with a discerning eye would know that the relationship between the two was not as simple as it seemed. Either the future prince-in-law, or the male favorite. However, he never thought that this man would be able to discover their whereabouts and dare to come alone. Do you think that the people who can be sent to supervise are not of a high level of terror? Think of this. The ghost face hidden under the iron mask also showed a dark expression. The intelligence ghost's terror level is not high, that is, it is at the level of a ghost king, but that does not mean that his terror level is not high either. He is the top ghost king who is infinitely close to the level of ghosts and gods. His strength is much stronger than the normal top ghost kings. It can be said that he has almost no opponents below the level of ghosts and gods. If Shenjian dares to underestimate him, he will definitely pay a heavy price. Let him go. Bullying a weakling is nothing. If you have the ability, just give it a try. Kinhyogui's body is filled with yin energy. Terrifying supernatural beings belonging to the top ghost king are spreading everywhere. Intelligence ghost. Hanging in mid-air by the ghost rope, he rolled his eyes even more because of these words. Damn it! Although this is true, it would be too much for you to say it directly. I was attacked accidentally. The intelligence ghost wanted to make a sound to save his respect, but when he opened his mouth, a feeling of suffocation came over him, making him shut his mouth obediently. Angry. Intelligence officers also have a say, right? The other side. Shenjian's lips curled up. I was bullied, what can you do to me? Said. Shenjian took out a peachwood nail and inserted it directly into the thigh of the intelligence ghost. You are seeking death. The eldest princess can't even protect herself. You, a concubine, dare to show off your power. The face of the Kinhu ghost became even more ferocious. A strong supernatural threat enveloped the entire place. The walls of the entire room were distorting and assimilating, and then the body of Kinhu ghost was integrated into the wall. The intelligence ghost trembled. As an intelligence officer, he knew that the supernatural power of the Kinhu ghost in front of him was the assimilation of the environment. The opponent can blend itself into different environments and use different terrains to carry out supernatural attacks. When blended into sand, quicksand can be created. Integrating into the building can add weight to the building. It seems like it's just a ghost exerting force, but in fact it's exerting pressure on all the buildings within the control range. Even opponents who are also top ghost kings will be suppressed directly as long as they don't understand the supernatural powers of Kinhu ghosts. Without exception. That's what I thought. The next second, The figure of Qian Hyogui reappeared. He didn't activate any weird supernatural effects, he just punched Shen Jian. There was a harsh tearing sound. The intelligence ghost looked even more excited. Master Chihu exerted his strength. He used his supernatural powers to activate the surrounding buildings. At this moment, he weighed several buildings plus himself. Immediately afterwards, Master Chihu punched him. Full of style. Showing the power of the top Ghost King. Then, boom! A loud noise erupted in the field. A tenth of a second later, a figure wearing black armor smashed out like a meteor, shattering dozens of buildings, and finally stopped in front of a building near the city lord's palace. Intelligence Ghost. His eyes almost popped out of his head. His white pupils were full of disbelief. Damn it! Master Kinhu was killed? How can this be? Although he didn't know where the limit of Sento Takashi's supernatural powers was, even if he only assimilated a few surrounding buildings, his own weight would probably be more than a few tons. Why was this blocked? The intelligence ghost grunted. He clearly saw that the man didn't use any supernatural powers, he just slapped him in the face. Then Master Kinhu smashed it out with overwhelming force. Gen. Don't be so dramatic. Everyone else was dumbfounded. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Bulletin Chigua. Chapter 765. Seeing Master Kinhu, who was not sure whether he was alive or dead, the intelligence ghost was completely dumbfounded at this time. His expression was confused. Inwardly, he was shocked by the strength shown by Shen Jian, but also felt shattered by the fact that Qian Hyogui was killed instantly. I told you that you are such a rubbish, but you just said such cruel words. I thought you were so powerful in Tang Tang Kinhu, how special your supernatural powers were, and that you were famous when you were pretending to be cool, but when it came to actual combat, you turned into a 3-second man? He naturally knew that Shen Jian could slap away 1,000 ghosts at the top Ghost King level, and his strength must be above that of the top Ghost Kings, but don't forget, he saw with his own eyes that Shen Jian didn't even use his supernatural power. If a ghost does not use supernatural powers, even if it is a ghost, how far can it go? But Kin Hyogui was still slapped away. What does this mean? It shows that Kaitoki is weaker than the intelligence he is investigating. Fortunately, he just tried his best to say hello to the other party. If I had known this, I might as well have been killed directly, so that I wouldn't be able to die even if I wanted to, and I wouldn't be able to escape even if I wanted to. He was hung with only one breath left. The intelligence ghost was completely desperate. No longer had any hope of being rescued. He rolled his eyes, ready to wait for death. The other side. Shen Jian also curled his lips. Step forward. Looking down from a high position, Chihogui collapsed on the ground, leaving only his mouth opening and closing. Looking at you, it seems like there is no hope. I'd better ask someone else. Shen Jian had disgust in his eyes. As if to say, you can't even take a slap from me, yet you dare to show off in front of me. Kin Hyogui. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Damn it. This is not just pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. If you had said earlier that your level of terror was higher than that of ghosts and gods, you would have thought I would have dared to move. You are such a shameless person, you also hid all the fluctuations of your yin qi, causing me to misjudge. The least thing is you. Certainly. Qian Hyogui only dared to compose these words in his heart. In reality, he managed to hold up his grimace and showed a forced expression. Prince-in-law, don't be impulsive. Impulsiveness is the devil. I think I can still save him. As if he felt that this was not enough weight, Qian Hyogui explained, you can ask that weakling what the consequences will be if you kill the Suanjia army. Hear this. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows slightly. Are you threatening me? No, 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 I would never dare to threaten you, Prince Consort. What I mean is that our Suanjia army was born with a supernatural brand. Once someone kills us, a red wolf smoke will rise above our heads. It's a supernatural brand that will be actively grafted onto the enemies who kill us, leaving them nowhere to hide. The more Suanjia army is killed, the clearer and more obvious the supernatural brand will be. Because of this, Suanjia army has become the most unprovoked existence in the Qing kingdom. No matter who it is, no one dares to take action against us. I don't even dare to make a fatal move. If you kill us, a supernatural brand will automatically appear on your body. In this Tianyu city, this supernatural brand will make you the target of public criticism. The Suanjia army has an internal purpose. If you encounter an existence with a supernatural brand on your head, kill it first. And then quickly. Qian Hyogui broke out in cold sweat and his whole brain shook. Prince-in-law, you are not the general's main target. With your ghost level strength, leaving alone now is not a problem at all. But if you kill us, you will not be able to escape at all. Finished. He looked at Shen Jian nervously, with a hint of fear in his eyes. Not only was he afraid of Shen Jian, but he was also afraid of betraying King Pingnan because he was greedy for life and afraid of death. If the general knew what happened tonight, he would also die. There is no way. He can only find a balance between the two. Letting Shen Jian go is undoubtedly the best choice. The general's target was the emperor's eldest daughter. Apart from that, the others were just a series of dead figures, inconspicuous at all. Even if Shen Jian leaves, no one will find anything wrong. Because of this, he revealed all the secrets in order to scare Shen Jian away. The reputation of the Suanjia army is known to everyone in the entire Qing kingdom. Their appearance here means that King Pingnan will also appear here. Coupled with the current situation of Tianyu City, anyone who is not a fool should know that the next step here is a meat grinding ground, which is dedicated to killing the soldiers and horses brought by the emperor's eldest daughter. Think of this. Qian Hyogui didn't think that Shen Jian would reject his proposal. Compared with his own ghost life, the identity of Prince Consort can be discarded completely. However, when Qian Hyogui looked up at Shen Jian, he was shocked to find that after listening to what he said, the eyes of the Prince Consort became brighter and brighter. He swore he was not mistaken. The man in front of him had eyes that were getting hotter and hotter, his lips curled up, and there was unconcealable excitement on his face. Qian Hyogui. Damn it! They are all riding horses and are about to die, you are so excited. Did I just say something wrong? Or did I not explain it clearly, causing you some misunderstanding? He was confused inside. I couldn't help but ask, Prince-in-law, did you hear clearly what I just said? Do you want me to tell you again? Shen Jian narrowed his eyes, but he couldn't take the excitement away from his face. He waved his hands and said, isn't it King Pingnan who is planning to kill the eldest princess and then put the blame on the army that massacred Xuanjiao city? Mysterious soldiers and bandits. But, that's not the point. Qian Hyogui. He had a question mark on his face. God, that's not the point. If that's not the point, then what is? Can you distinguish between primary and secondary conflicts? Your urgent need to delay now is to escape from Tianyuan City quickly and stay far away, so that I can have both sides and survive. That's what I thought. Shen Jian had already come over and said excitedly, tell me what effect this supernatural brand has. Hear this. Thousands of ghosts and ghosts were numb. Not tight at all. What is the effect? Is now the time to learn this? Your brain has 18 bends on a mountain road, right? I don't understand why. He sorted out his thoughts and said word by word, Prince-in-law, maybe I didn't explain it clearly just now. This supernatural mark will mark the enemies who kill the Suanjia army, and a scarlet wolf smoke will appear above the head. Any method can be used to it can't be eliminated, even if you hide in the ghost realm. Shen Jian nodded frequently. My eyes are a little brighter. Think about it. Asked a few questions. How far is the visual range of this scarlet wolf smoke? If I stand here, can people outside the city gate see it? If the distance is too far, will your Suanjia army give up the pursuit? Oh, and also, can this supernatural brand be blocked and turned on by itself? For example, when I need it, can I turn it on myself? Qin Hyugui. He was completely confused. Damn you, what kind of mental retardation is this? Visible range? Are you afraid that the scope is not large enough and others can't see it? Grass. This is the first time I've heard of such a question. If you don't tell me, I've never thought about this problem. Facing Shen Jian's 3 consecutive questions, Qin Hyugui choked. Because he really doesn't know the answers to these questions. After all, ever since Xianjiajan's reputation and the immortality of the supernatural brand were spread, he had never seen a case where someone dared to kill Xianjiajan. He had never tested the visual range of the supernatural brand. Or, no one would be bored enough to actually test this. Damn it, I can't answer the call. Qian Hugui's face turned red and he hesitated, unable to say a complete sentence. See this? Shen Jian understood. Then he shook his head and said, forget it, needless to say, I believe in your professionalism. After all, you are from the royal family. This supernatural brand should not be stingy. The words fell. Shen Jian stretched out a finger. A bright golden beam condensed in his hand. Qin Hugui's eyes widened in horror. Because he saw what Shen Jian meant, kill a black armor army and try the effect of the supernatural brand. You are a real dog. Before he could finish speaking, a golden beam of light penetrated his head. Thump. As the corpse of Qin Hu Ghost fell, an unknown supernatural reaction suddenly took effect. A layer of scarlet mist appeared above Shen Jian's head. It symbolizes that he killed a member of Suanjia army. The length of the aerosol is about 3 meters, which is not noticeable. You can hardly see it clearly from a few streets away. Shen Jian's eyes showed a bit of disappointment. Think about it. Run back again. He reached out and took off the intelligence ghost's head. The next second, the length of the scarlet mist increased to 7 meters, and the color became darker. The length was already slightly beyond the height of a street. Looking from other directions, it is very obvious. See this scene. A smile finally flashed across Shen Jian's face. This level of aerosol is enough to make him a conspicuous bag. Next. It depends on when King Pingnan's army arrives here. He estimated that it would be soon. After all, the eldest princess is not a fool. Once she discovers the anomaly in Tianyu City, she is likely to make an immediate decision and directly issue an order to retreat. By then, that would be all in vain. Just thinking about it. There was a rustling sound. Shen Jian looked back. At the corner of the street, amidst the grey fog, 11 figures ran towards them. It was the players who came to the city lord's mansion. Seeing Shen Jian, everyone looked a little relaxed. But soon, they noticed the 2 ghost corpses at Shen Jian's feet, as well as the conspicuous scarlet mist. They slowly posted question marks on the public screen. What is this thing? The impact of a supernatural attack. Soon. The Yin Ao man with the ID of Sky Snake was the first to react. He opened his mouth and said, Yamluo, the situation is urgent. We must leave here as soon as possible. This Tianyuan city is a trap for the emperor's eldest daughter. I have an intuition that if we don't leave, we will have no chance. Shen Jian tilted his head and said, take away your intuition. This is a trap in the first place. Seeing Shen Jian's reaction, The thoughts in Tian Snake's mind began to form out of thin air again. He seemed to have thought of something, and his pupils dilated little by little. You and the eldest daughter of the emperor knew this was a trap for a long time? Did you step in on purpose? Shen Jian was non-committal. Instead, he focused his attention on the players. What's wrong? Tian Snake said suspiciously. There's an extra person among you, didn't you notice?